It is Tuesday, March 19th, 2019. The time is 7:08, and we will convene the meeting for the City Council. Roll call.
Mayor Fay,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Larada,
Here.
Alderman Aiken, Alderman Mitchell,
Here.
Alderman Heidel.
Please join me in the allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Any additions and/or amendments to the agenda tonight?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, council members, under item number 9, under reports, staff updates, if it would be okay with the council, we would like to remove the first item there and retain the opera picnic location as a point of discussion.
Much to my dismay. Understood. Anything else?
Do we not want to include an item for an executive session?
Councilperson Heidel, it's my intent to have an executive session on the items that were discussed with you at the April 2nd meeting. In order for us to have time to get together the relevant background documents.
Are there pieces that we want to hear from?
Yeah, I like the idea of the second.
I do too.
Oh, okay.
There's nothing that can be
Sure, tonight.
used to enlighten us tonight, like what Whispering Pines is. I heard a lot of information tonight. All of it is new to me. So anything that the staff can provide in executive session, a brief executive session that would further enlighten me as to what the complaint and the matters are, I would appreciate it.
At whichever point that takes place, we also can provide not only information but also clarification to correct some of the what I believe are inaccurate statements made.
I'm not suggesting do everything tonight. I'm suggesting I'd like to get some information tonight. And then, yeah, a more thorough meeting on the 2nd with all of the information that you can compile.
If it's your desire to amend the agenda to add a second executive session item, then that would be on page 2 of the agenda under executive session. And we would add pursuant to CRS 24-6-4024B to discuss specific legal questions related to the March 19th, 2019 letter from Collins, Cockrell, and Cole.
Do we need a motion for that to happen?
Yes.
We would need a motion and a second to amend the agenda to add that specific executive session item.
Is there a motion?
Also move.
I'll second.
And ask for a vote on that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Less than 10 minutes. No.
Less than 10. Less than 10 minutes, aye.
Okay, that's unanimous. We will have a second piece to our executive session pursuant to this meeting. Anything else?
No.
Please.
Okay, any conflicts of interest on the agenda, guys? Any conflicts, Jeff? No. Judy? Okay, let's move on to the consent agenda. First, looking over the bills, are there any questions about the bills? I had one just in general. It was prompted by the 135397 Home Depot, $925 materials. Is Home Depot our solution, or is there not better sources than a retail outlet for quote-unquote public works materials?
So there are a number of retailers, including Home Depot, that the city does business with in the region, throughout the state, across the country. What we have that is different from any other retail customer is tax exempt status. And so we have those arrangements set up with some of those vendors that we use more often. And so it is a tax exempt status.
I'm not judging, I'm just asking. Any other questions about the bills, guys? Okay. Any questions about the minutes from our prior meeting? March 19th. I think that's March 5th.
It is March 5th, thank you.
Reva's good, but that's
The date on the minutes is that.
I wasn't here. Is there any questions for those things? Okay, move on. A motion.
I move to approve the consent agenda, which consists of regular bill list through March 7th and city council minutes, March 5th, 2019.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Public forum. Now is the time for a public forum. If there's anyone who wants to speak on agenda items tonight, not general items, but items tonight. Nobody signed up, but we will take your questions and or comments now. Going once, going twice. Public forum is closed at 7:15 and opened at 7:15. Time didn't matter, sorry. Okay, next we have a Board of Adjustment. Resolution number BOA 1901, a resolution of the Board of Adjustment of City Central, Colorado, approving a variance request submitted for property known as Shores Residence and setting forth findings of fact. Ray Rears.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. We have a Board of Adjustment request for Council. City Council sits as the Board of Adjustment as well as City Council. So in order to officially review this, I would request that Council recess and convene as the Board of Adjustment as the first action, and then appoint the chairperson to the Board of Adjustment. It's actually a separate board that's sitting as.
Okay. So you're having to recess the meeting?
Recess is City Council.
Okay.
And convene as the Board of Adjustment.
Okay, so the meeting is closed or recessed at 7:16. And now we will open the meeting of the Board of the Adjustment, and I assume I'm the chair of that.
You would be, that's, I guess I'll defer to you.
The mayor acts as chair.
Yeah, do we,
Yeah, okay.
so,
I second.
okay. We just need to vote on it.
All in favor?
Aye.
So carries.
Well, thank you. So we have a Board of Adjustment 1901. This is a public hearing to permit a dwelling to be constructed 6 feet from the south property line. The city requires a 10-foot setback from the front property line for a town lot for single-family detached construction. The request before you is for a motion and resolution. This is the subject lot is on Central City Block 28, lots 19 and 20. The request is again 6 feet from the front property line. I'm going to run through some background information for the record. The property is located in a medium-density zoning district. The size of the home to be constructed is approximately 20 by 50, with small courtyards on either end. The Historic Preservation Commission reviewed the plans 3 times previously, and most recently on August 8th, 2018, in which a certificate of appropriateness was granted at that time. City Council ratified that on August 21st of 2018. The Central City Land Development Code under section 16.4.100B, the front setback for a town lot is 10 feet. Under section 16.8.500.1, minor modifications can be made by the administrator up to 20%. The applicant has applied for and received a similar variance on July 30th, 2015. That variance was approved, and as well as 2 earlier certificates of appropriateness from the Historic Preservation Commission. All those previous approvals expired 1 year after they were granted. The property was connected to city water and sewer in 2017. Board of Adjustment, its authority stems from 16.8.501.B. Pursuant to Resolution 1104 from 2004, the mayor and members of council sit as the Board of Adjustment. And as required for 16.8.310B, the property was posted and notices were mailed first class on March 8th. All property owners within 300 feet were sent the notice, though I do have an addition. And I did receive an email from a property owner, a Terry Frederick, today, so I'm going to find that out. So that comment is generally supportive of it, though there was a question posed in the comment, and we addressed that, but no. I have multiple variances rolled in at the last minute. No, it doesn't work that way.
So you can say yes to the variance and no to the rollover.
So I would, from council's standpoint, we just view it as a favorable comment from the neighbor.
Yeah.
So on to recommended actions, the next steps, conduct a public hearing, which is what you're going through. There's standards which must be met. All of them needs to be met by the Board of Adjustment in order for the variance to be approved. So I'm going to read each one and then staff's comment underneath that. One, that there is a unique physical circumstances or conditions such as irregularity, narrowness, or shallowness of the lot, or exceptional topography or other physical conditions particular to the affected property. Staff comments on that is the subject property slopes steeply from the north to the south. The second item, that the unusual circumstances or conditions do not exist throughout the neighborhood or district in which the property is located. Staff comment, subject property has site development constraints that do not exist throughout the MDR zoning district. Criteria 3, that because of such physical circumstances or conditions, the property cannot reasonably be developed in conformity with the provisions of this chapter. Staff comment, conformity to the set of provisions will cause greater impact on the archaeological resources and the site topography of the property. Criteria 4, that such unnecessary hardship has not been created by the applicant, which is indeed the case. 5, that the variance if granted will not alter the essential character of the neighborhood or districts in which the property is located or substantially or permanently impaired the appropriate use or development of adjacent property. The variance if granted, staff comment, if the variance if granted will not substantially or permanently impair the appropriate or development of adjacent property. And 6, that the variance if granted is a minimum variance that will afford relief and is the least modification possible
with the land building request. Comments, request is minimum variance that will for relief. In order to grant the variance, we need a super majority, so 4 out of 5. The council need to support this variance in order for it to be approved. Subject property site observations are on the second page of the staff report for your review. The Board of Adjustment has 3 alternatives. Move to approve the setback variance as proposed. 2, move to continue the hearing to a time and date certain, or move to deny the proposed setback variance request. Staff is supportive of granting the variance, and the resolution before you is a resolution to grant the variance, and if the Board of Adjustments feels that they will not be approving the variance, asks for them to provide why that's the case, and then with council to clarify the resolution. And I stand for any questions. Did you say this should be open for a public comment?
It is a public hearing. The applicant is also here, and I'm sure the applicant would like to speak in the matter as well.
Come on up. Unless you have other questions for Ray.
Okay.
Hold on.
I've got a procedural question.
Hold on, Ray.
Staff mentioned that it was posted March 8th. There's nothing on the posting that indicates time and place of hearing
On the property?
on the property.
No, but it does ask for people to contact the city, and it's noticed on the website, it's noticed in front of City Hall, and also at the post office. So if anyone was interested, they could contact us, and we would be able to provide any information they have.
I noted that, but I'm accustomed to hearings being set for time and place certain. And I'm just asking a question, procedural question, if that's sufficient posting. We just refer questions to the city hall.
It is, I'm assuming that the mailed letters that went out to the surrounding property owners within that 300-foot radius did include reference to the time and date of the hearing.
It did, correct.
Okay, thank you.
It was just the sign placed on the property, that was the standard sign the city has used for public hearings in the past. That just directed the public or anyone interested to contact the city staff if they had any questions for any public, what actions getting taken place.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Ray there? Okay.
Just asking for variance, so
If you could state your name and your address, please.
my name is Stephen Shores at 6573 South Kearney Circle, Centennial, 80111.
Okay.
I'm just asking for the variance so that the house snugs into the mountain and keeps the beauty of the mountain, and none of the stone walls are affected, as there's a view above me. And that's why I'm asking for it.
So,
Okay.
Any
questions?
Yeah, so it looks like you've gotten a few approvals and they've expired over the years. And
Yeah.
Are we ready to move this time?
Yeah, we're ready.
Okay,
Been a long process.
okay.
It's my first house I ever built, so
Okay,
we're
congratulations.
we're just working for it. Ray was really good. Ray reviewed it.
Any other
Couldn't done without him.
I feel for you.
I kept being like, what?
Rock wall and all, I
Yeah.
feel for you.
Right, that was the first, yeah. But we're ready, we're ready. I've got people lined up and we're just, waiting for your blessing.
And do you plan on using it as a second residence?
Second residence, yeah.
Not that,
Yeah, that's right.
It's been cleared with the, you have the sewers line and all that cleared with the sanitation district?
Yeah, yeah, I've already got the permits and stuff, and it's already in. The water and sewer was put in first, because that's the way that's moving it.
any other questions? Go ahead.
Just for future information, this isn't sufficient information. We need a much larger presentation. This is almost impossible to read. So I'm asking, what's the setback from? Are we setting it back from the pavement? Are we setting it back from the rock wall? Are we setting it back from
The rock wall.
property line? The property line is defined by the rock wall.
He has a survey, it is property line. It's really one of the agreements with
most of the streets up here were defined by the property line, so, or the rock wall, so that isn't surprising. And so that establishes the property line, and then according to our zoning regulations, he needs 10 feet from that rock wall, the face of the rock wall, I'm assuming, before he can start the foundation of his structure.
That's the setback as it is now. The previous approval in 2015, the setback was 25 feet. So the setback has actually been lowered since that point.
25 feet would use the whole lot. I'm assuming that what I saw there today, the part that's been graded out is where you intend to build the house.
Yeah.
You don't intend to blast any further rock out
No.
or anything of that nature. And parking is going to be on the street, so it's certainly not going to be parking on the lot itself,
Right, that's feet.
which is not inconsistent with parking up and down that entire street, so that doesn't appear to be a problem, although it's going to need some improvements, I think, before you can do that.
Yeah, I think so too. We're gonna dig out down there. And after we're done finished building the house and everything comes down, and we start to put the wall back up, we'll take out in front. We're gonna grade it out in front. But right now, we need to get up to the spot where the house is beautiful.
So there is a ramp that's been constructed to access the
Yeah,
site.
yeah.
And there's also an existing stairwell in the rock wall.
No, we're gonna put one in.
Well, there's one there now, right below the yellow sign right
Is there? Okay.
now. Yeah. No, that's
I'm married.
Thanks, saved you some time.
That's what I'm asking is, if that is the sidewalk or the rock or the access that is identified on the drawings. So it's not. What you intend is to use the ramp
The
location?
ramp location, that's where the new steps will be.
Okay, so would you like to see it? I'm assuming that's probably the property line. There's the yellow sign.
That's not my property.
That's not your property?
Right there's the property.
Right, there's the
Right,
right.
and then right, see that pole right there?
Right?
That's the property line.
So the posting wasn't on the property,
Oh,
that posting.
no, I guess not.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
To me, the posting is sufficient because it's in the vicinity. Anybody who has an interest on that property and any improvements to it is going to know about it. So I think it's adequate.
Yeah, Councilperson Heidel, if you wouldn't mind forwarding the photos that you were just sharing with the applicant to the city clerk so that we can ensure that those are part of the record of the proceeding, I would appreciate
It
it.
may require the city clerk to do the forwarding, but she's more than happy.
Any other questions for the property owners?
Yeah, there's no setback on the back of the lot. It's going to be built right up against the stone.
It's gonna be built right up against the stone wall that's set in. There used to be a house there years ago, and now I'm gonna replace it in the same spot more or less.
And approximately the same size of the original house.
We're not really sure. We've had people say there was, there's kind of pictures there were, and, you know, a long time ago.
Well, I'm excited that somebody's doing some building and is making use of those lots.
Yeah.
There's plenty of other development that could take place in that vicinity, so thank you for your answers.
Okay, thanks.
Anyone else from the public would like to? We'll go ladies first.
Well, I've been on the HBC.
Can you come to the microphone, please?
Deborah Ames, 706 Martin Drive, Central City. I've been on the HBC through all his designs, his 3 years. And it's really gonna fit into Central City design, the way he's done things. He's not, he's using the brick wall, the walls still. And so if anything helps, please approve it, because he's really got a good design, and it will help bring more people That way, once they see people building.
Okay. Please.
Tom Tyson, 304 East 4th High Street. I was just wondering what the address of this property is. So,
It doesn't have an address until it's built.
Yeah, so the address will be assigned once we issue the building permit.
That's your recap.
up Eureka,
Yeah.
right hand side as you go up?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Anyone else have any?
They should be.
Okay. Close the public hearing at 7:33. Any other questions? Is there a motion to approve or any motion?
I move to approve resolution number BOA 19-01, a resolution of the Board of Adjustment of approving a variance from setback requirements under the city's zoning ordinance based on a finding of fact that the variance application meets all of the approval criteria set forth in section 16-8-501D of the zoning ordinance, as more specifically set forth in the Board of Adjustment communication form dated March 5th or 19th? Oh, 2019.
19. Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
2019. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Carries unanimously. Congratulations and thank you.
Hard ride.
So now I will close the Board of Adjustment at 7:34 and reconvene the City Council meeting at 7:34. And next on our agenda are action items. Planning Commission appointment. Dana, please. Come to the microphone.
Hi, I'm Dina Hunter.
Sorry.
Okay. I'm at 806 Mac Drive, Central City. I live up in Prospectors Run. And I've lived here in the city for approximately a little over 11 and a half years, right around there. And I'm interested in the position of planning commission. And I'm more interested because I feel that we need to compete, and that's in quotes, with Blackhawk, so we can get more families and all up in here. And so hopefully by allowing other businesses to come in, maybe that would help that. We also have a family interest in it. My husband and uncle used to own quite a bit of property up here in Central City many moons ago. If anyone's lived there for eons, they may know them. So, and my background's all in telecommunications. I don't really have anything funny, but I'm pretty good. Been on many committees, so that's about it.
Was there any staff recommendations, or is this one? How many positions are open? What's the state of the planning commission?
This is the last position for Planning Commission that's vacant.
Okay, and is Dina the only applicant?
She is.
As of this time.
Okay.
This position has been open for how long? 12 years?
It's been open for several months.
None of this is to question your qualifications, just to know where we're at. Does anyone have any questions for the applicant?
Thank you for applying. Sure. Thank you for your interest.
I'd like to second that. I think we need more activity from the residents and involvement in some of the decision-making that goes on with the city. Have you ever been to a planning commission meeting?
I haven't.
you have an understanding of what the planning commission does.
I do. I had a really good friend, she's moved on, but she used to be on the planning commission, so we've chatted many, many times about it.
So are you acquainted with comprehensive plan and zoning ordinances?
No.
But you will be.
I will.
Yeah, okay.
Reba was kind enough to show me the books.
Good.
Very good.
You have a lot of reading in front of you.
Mhm.
Thank you.
I'm curious if the planning commission, if there was other commissions that had positions available that would have been more of your interest, would you have chosen them versus?
Deb and I are neighbors, and so she's tried to get me on the historical. Yeah, I'm not geared that way, and plus and reading what you need for the historical as well, that was, on the application and all. I didn't feel that was suited for me. So that's why I went ahead with planning. I'm starting slowly, so that's.
Can we, any other questions from the motion?
The motion to approve Steve Hunter to the planning commission.
And I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Carries unanimous. Thank you, Dina.
Thank you.
Okay, that's all the new business. Let's go to staff reports.
Mr. Mayor, council members, you have some staff reports in your packet. In addition to that, the item listed there on the agenda, specifically the opera picnic location. The opera picnic for 2019 is currently scheduled for Monday, June 24th. However, for a number of years, the welcome picnic took place up in the William C. Russell Park. And the last 3 years in a row, the city has moved that event down to Main Street in hopes of having additional people that may not have known about it in the past aware of it. And so at this point, there's also been kind of a difference in direction from council over the years, but the previous councils over the last 3 years, the majority has decided to have it there on Main Street. Seeing that we have a new council, a new majority, before we move forward completely, wanted to make sure that we had clear direction from council, possibly even a motion would be helpful as to whether we would continue the opera picnic on Main Street or if we should try to move it back for a year or more up to the park. And so there have been some recent questions about it. I thought we'd just get clarification.
Any opinions on the picnic, guys?
Yes, I have an opinion. I always wondered why they don't use that little park that has benches and little trail that goes between Spruce Street and Eureka next to the...
In between the opera house and the...
Yes, why don't they use that?
I don't think it's big enough. There's not enough.
No, it's hard to put a stage up there.
Really?
Yeah, it's not quite.
It's such a
It
beautiful
would be
place
lovely
for
if
a
there were 6 of
picnic.
us.
It's cool.
Yeah, I don't think it's quite the venue.
I always like the picnic at the park.
Do you like the Victor Park?
I won't compromise.
You want one of the 2 picnics?
I think the Main Street invites too much attention that isn't directed towards the opera. I mean, the original intention of the opera picnic was the observation made that the opera comes into town, you make friends and develop relationships, and then they leave. And up until we had the opera picnic, that all happened. You made friends and then they left the next week. So the idea was to get acquainted early on in their time here and try to develop those relationships and welcome them to the community. And I don't think we accomplish that when we do it on Main Street. I think we have a lot of people that have no interest in the opera, have no interest in the festival, and do have an interest in the free barbecue. And for that reason, I'd like to move it more remote. I like the park, but I also understand that it's an inconvenience for some of the opera people, although I thought free food would always be enough to drive people to go that far.
Yeah.
But I'm suggesting we do it at the opera at the parking lot.
Tower lot.
Yeah, tower lot. I think
Yeah.
that puts it close enough to the community, it's within a short walking distance. As the mayor demonstrated last summer, it's a site that can be used for that kind of activity. The only drawback would be the loss of any parking that we need in the lot, but I think we plan ahead far enough we can accomplish it.
In fact, last year, I did hear that people from the casinos were coming out and eating food at the picnic. Tons of it.
So to that point, I've only been to 2 picnics, and they've both been on Main Street, so I don't have the history. I like the fact that you leave Bonanza and you see some music on the street, and you see a line of people getting food that maybe you're not an opera fan, but maybe you do meet an opera singer in that line and you become an opera fan. I like that integration of all the stakes on Main Street. Personally, I will default to those of you who have preferred the picnic areas of the past, and I like the compromise idea, but I really like the fact that we can bring opera singers, residents, gamblers, everyone together over a barbecue sandwich and a karaoke. That's my opinion on
I like Jack's idea. Tower House, parking lot would be great, I think. Upper parking lot.
I agree.
it. So the Tower House parking lot, obviously the opera is party to this picnic, so, and they own it, so we'd have to get their approval.
Eric's here.
Eric, can we use your parking lot for the picnic?
Sure.
Do you like the idea?
I think it's a great idea.
Okay. Where are people gonna park?
Where do they park? They don't park on Main Street when they're at the opera. I mean, they had to drive up to the, they can walk up to
They
can park at Century.
The city.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same amount of distance almost.
Do you have an opinion on it, Daniel?
Really, I'd just like to get a motion.
So we can move on, right?
I think honestly, I really don't.
Is there a motion?
It's people that are gonna want the free barbecue are gonna walk to the Taylor House lot, and
Don't
they
walk
will
to
walk
Black
to the
Hawk for
park.
free barbecue.
If they want that barbecue, they're gonna get the barbecue. I mean, either way, we just need to have better accommodations for bathrooms. That's my only feedback from the years. There was not enough bathrooms, and you can't drag your kid into a casino, and since I have kids, bathrooms, parking, people will walk if they want to do it.
So I'd like to make a motion, we have the opera picnic this year in the opera parking lot.
I second that.
On June 24th?
On June 24th, which is between the 23rd and 25th.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Carries unanimous. Third location for the.
Yeah.
Okay, good. That's all. Okay, council comments is next. Let's start with Alderman Aiken, please.
I just want to say that you guys, Sam's crew did a good job on that snow removal during our latest snowstorm. I thought we got the, especially St. James Street, and it showed that, to get that sand mix down really helps with traction and stuff. Because I know I was trying to get down the hill, and I actually ended up shoveling myself part of the street early in the morning to get down there, because it was, even with four-wheel drive and started snowing, I had no control of my vehicle. And so I think maybe in the future, you might want to consider that, because depending on the storm, because I really believe that an ambulance would not have made it up that street with the snow the way it was, when it was like that much snow and it got packed down. And I had no control of my vehicle with four-wheel drive and started snows. And I was lucky I didn't, crash into either the TVs or, but, so I depending on the storm, I think it's important that some of those streets may get some attention that we wouldn't necessarily give during a regular storm, test out the the road conditions, maybe get some reports back from somebody.
What we can do is, Mayor, Council, Alderman Aiken, we have our snow removal plan and our policy, and we reviewed that with council. You know, I think what we can do is maybe later in this year, but prior to the next season, we can bring that back and see if there's any suggestions, because then we can go ahead and take a look at what.
Yeah, I understand that they were really stressed that day with the parkway and stuff, you know.
I could add that I made it up to 6 high with no problem, and back, but thank you for the ride.
What time did you go up there?
Probably closer to you.
It was fine.
Yeah, it was quick.
I tried to come down at 9 o'clock and
Okay, so what were you examining?
just, you know.
I have a comment.
I'm sure you do.
I heard a vicious rumor that our new mayor is still kissing babies. And I'd like to congratulate him on his new baby.
Second that, congratulations.
Yeah. She's a cutie.
Shit, yeah. You can crying and poop is cute. Jackie?
I think the only thing I've been thinking about is like how quick we got our gas line back up and going. It's our last meeting and whole sign taken out and how quick that all came back around. I thought that was really great. And I heard that we're getting some type of barrier put up, hopefully, right there. Or
Yes,
hopefully we were budgeting for that.
Well-
So if someone starts flying through, they don't take out all of our signs and everyone around.
So the gas meter's been repaired. They've dug the holes for bollards that'll go around that gas meter. And then also in addition to that, aside from the signs being improved, corrected, and in place, then Public Works also will be installing bollards around the curb line, pretty much of that bubble area, just to further safeguard the area pedestrians are walking through.
So like bollards, like Target size, giant red ones? Like that? Or are we talking about parking poles?
The most
50
important
feet
thing is
down,
some sort of
like-
a barrier that would allow, if there is impact, for that vehicle to stay outside of that area. So.
That's the intent, and this is something we need to wait for the weather to warm up just a little. They did get 3 holes, the contractor for Excel got 3 holes put right by the meter. And they'll finish putting those bollards in. And then when it warms up a little bit, we'll get the utilities checked so we don't dig into any electrical or gas and find it hard way. And then Public Works will set, I think we planned on roughly 20 bollards. They're about 9 inches in diameter, and the top of them is filled with concrete. They'll be about 4 foot deep. There'll be 20 of those spaced 5 foot apart from each other in that area.
Is it gonna do the whole curb and sidewalk? I'm just very concerned when you see that sign and the stop sign taken out. And if someone was walking there, or if we were doing the Christmas tree lighting and we have 50 people standing there. So is it gonna be closer to the street or further in?
We're going to stay about a foot away from the curb.
Okay.
And then, like I said, there'll be about 20 of them. They'll be 5 foot apart. The thought is at 5 foot, could you get a car through there? Yeah, you probably could if you're going fast enough. But that would keep most of the accidents from coming up onto the sidewalk. And then if we need to make adjustments when we've built what we think we need to build, we can certainly do that.
And I'm just gonna put a bug in our people's ears. We're putting a lot on Public Works and plowing more and scrape these sidewalks and do these flag stairwells. We may need to think about allowing in a budget for them to have additional people, because I don't know where we're gonna get these people from, but if we're asking them to do extra stairwells and we're asking them to do extra sidewalks, I mean, I could see them plowing from my house you know, through there, and I walked down a bit, hiked down through Chalices and kind of looked down a bit, and I mean, they were doing the best they can, but I mean, that much snow, I don't know how much she can do. And I mean, we have little walkie-talkies, and it sounds funny, but my son's kid walkie-talkies picks up their walkie-talkies sometimes. We try to talk to you, but it doesn't work. But it's quite fun, because we have the walkie-talkies. He's like, I can hear them, they're backing up, you know. So it's funny, but if I'm hearing it, and they have like a, you know, almost a half-mile radius, the ones we have, I mean, they're moving the best they can. And I mean, we may need to think about, we're saying, hey, thanks, man, you got people taking out gas meters, now they gotta do this stairwell, now they're helping the sidewalks. I mean, you can only do so much. That's just something to think about, but I mean, we're asking a lot, and the weather's taking a lot, you know, out of them too.
We do provide a very high.
You're doing great level of service. No, I'm not, but I'm just saying, there's only so much you can do, and if the weather keeps hitting the way it's hitting, and you guys are doing, you know, above and beyond still, like I said, better than I-70. When I got to the Parkway, I actually had a sigh of relief. On I-70, I wasn't sighing of relief, I was trying to get to the Parkway. Because at least if I'm stuck there, I could call and know that you guys would take us out, you know, honestly. I mean, honestly, but if we're asking a lot, I mean, maybe council, we could give a little bit more. And that's just what I'm thinking. But I'm just speaking for myself.
We can continue to have those discussions and bring a proposal if that's something we can make happen, or if something we think we can propose. The other thing, if it's okay, I'd like to just acknowledge the Sheriff's Department as well as the Fire Department. The Fire Department was out there standing in all that for 3+ hours, I think, from start to finish. Sheriff's Department also dealing not only with the wrecks, but also assisting with the evacuations, and so it was great to see everything work the way that it did, and work really well.
At least the Sheriff's Department will get some revenue from it. Or
No,
the county will.
No, we don't.
No.
That goes to the state.
But thank you.
Yes,
I mean, thank
that's-
you, guys, thank you.
Jack?
I want to thank the staff for putting together the charrette last night. I thought it was very successful. We not only had people from Central City, but we had people from the county in attendance, and I think that was helpful. I still think that facility in the past was used by the entire county. It was a very cathartic location, and that possibility exists again. So it was great to see that those people here. I missed the storm, darn. But I got here Friday, and I was impressed with the snow excavation that was being done to take fugitive snow off the curbs and widen the streets so that we had enough right of way to get through the town. That was great, but you took a step further and made sure that we still had parking in other places to get cars through and cars to pass each other. So I know that's an extra effort that's required by guys that are already spent a couple of days behind a plow in a storm. That's tough work. Speaking of snow, though, I'm very impressed. I think we've made great strides in getting the sidewalks cleaned. We do have a couple that have decided that they're going to ignore the situation entirely. So I'm asking if we've cited anyone. I think we've sent out letters, but.
We have cited.
So we've taken action.
We have. And actually, I think Ray even today has maybe some evidence of being out there again. He fouled and ripped his pants.
So we've issued 4 warnings, two citations today, and the property that we cited today, we got a voice message that out-of-state owner has worked with an in-city contractor to take care of that sidewalk. So the hope is that problems with sidewalk that everyone drives by as they go to the post office will be taken care of by the end of the week. If it's not, then there will be additional fines and penalties.
We had some fines go out already?
Yes, 2 fines today.
Cool.
I think that's great news, because if people who are being dutiful about it see scofflaws getting away with it, we're not going to get the cooperation we've been seeing in the last couple of months. So thank you for getting that done. I've asked, in conjunction with the sidewalk ordinance, we adopted an ordinance that facilitated the city putting liens on properties, and I asked about looking at our nuisance ordinances to see if they're sufficient to address things such as broken windows and masonry that's deteriorating and paint and other parts of a building that are falling apart. I think it's important for us to get the attention of building owners to address those concerns as well. Any movement on that?
We'll bring it to you as, I mean, we can have a work session scheduled as soon as we have something that we propose.
I'm more concerned about the legal mechanism and whether the existing nuisance ordinances are sufficient to get that kind of detail and encourage somebody to move forward, making the proper improvements to the property.
I think what we're in the process of analyzing is whether it would be to the city's benefit to consider adopting the International Property Maintenance Code by reference. So I know that I have one of my associates looking at that right now to see if that would provide the city with additional enforcement options. And if the answer to that is yes, then we would be proposing that code to be adopted by reference at some point in the future. So we are in the process of analyzing it.
Thank you for that.
Okay.
I understand we applied for a grant for interns, students. You mentioned something at the last Belvedere meeting about a grant for.
Yes, so the city applied for about 30 days ago or so in partnership with CU Denver for them to have classes up in Central City. That would be for the next 3 years. There's a organization, Colorado Health Foundation, I believe, is the.
What was that?
Colorado Health Foundation. So we applied for a grant in partnership with them for $170,000 so that there could be classes up here for the next 3 years. This is after the ULI and the TAP program. Direct some activities to energize the city, so we move forward with that. There's no commitment, financial commitment from the city, so that's why this didn't come before city council.
And is that in with the use of the opera properties, or where is that proposed to take?
So we have talked to the opera, and probably not the first season, but potentially in the future seasons, we looked at and toured the Med building. And that seems like a very logical location that we could start and reside there and then go back and forth between Denver and here to start the process. But maybe looking at historic preservation, economic development, arts, so it could be various different schools and see if they would move students up here.
Thank you.
Expedience. I am going to refrain from comments other than to thank everyone for coming. Well, I do want to thank staff as a whole, and especially Public Works for all the work you've had to be doing for the city over these weeks. There's a public forum now for items that were not on the agenda. Is there anyone that wants to speak? No one signed up. Anyone? No one. Okay. Public forum is closed, and I assume we're going to not close the meeting, but adjourn for the executive session.
Yes, and Mayor Pro Tem.
I move to go into executive session under section 24-6-402 4E Colorado Revised Statutes to determine positions relative to matters that may be subject to negotiations and to instruct negotiators regarding proposed amendments to the 1999 Growth IGA Intergovernmental Agreement dated September 29, 1999, and pursuant to section 24-6-402 4B for specific legal questions related to March 19, 2019 letter from Collins, Cockrell, and I further move to reconvene the March 19th, 2019 regular city council meeting at the conclusion of the executive session in order to adjourn the March 19th regular meeting.
Amen.
Second that.
I meant a second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Carried unanimously. Executive session.